Fans' expectations for the Cardinals offseason and what they have done so far has left many of us unsatisfied. Is there still a move to make that would actually turn those frowns upside down? This is Locked On Cardinals.
You are Locked On Cardinals, your daily St. Louis Cardinals podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey there, Cardinals fans. I'm JD Hafford, and I'm a national radio sports anchor. Born and raised in the Lou and a lifetime Cardinals fan, and I'm your host for Locked On Cardinals, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. You can follow me on Twitter X at JD Sports Radio. You can follow me or the podcast as well on Twitter X at LO_Cardinals. I do want to thank those of you who make Locked On Cardinals your first listen every day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts. We're on YouTube as well. If you want to stop on by, like, subscribe, comment, interact with us. Love to have you. Hit the notification button so you know when new episodes are posted. This is a show serving Cardinal Nation and giving the best fans in baseball all of the info about the birds on the bat. Today's episode brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 moneyline bet. That's $150 if your team wins. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to get started. Once again, happy holidays. If you're looking on YouTube right now, you can see me. I'm doing one more show in one of the ugly Christmas sweaters. I got the Griswold one on today. A little bit of lights, a little festive hat. Still got the Christmas lights and decorations up. It's the day after Christmas. I'm not ready to move on just yet. But by the time we get to the new year and we, flip over to 2024, we'll get back to normal looking stuff here in the studio. But let's start and talk about the St. Louis Cardinals and how they've done some very St. Louis Cardinal type of things so far this offseason. And the more I look at stuff, the more I'm like, none of this should have come as a surprise at all. I think one of the problems for us as fans is that we continue to be our own worst enemy because we conjure up all of these ideas in our heads that the team could do, this. They could spend money on this guy to improve their team, or they could make trades and go get this guy. And that's all they have to do to turn this team around. And we forget that the reality is that the Cardinals are just not those people. They are not a bold and aggressive front office. That's just not what they do. And we need to accept the fact that that is not who they are. To expect different than what they have been doing for how many years now? That's kind of the problem here. I know we want them to go out and spend buku money because the owner has it, and he just doesn't do it. He doesn't. And you can call him cheap. You can call him whatever names you want. But that's just not how he runs his business. He's just not going to do it. They are boring. They are better safe than sorry type of people. And that's okay because it has worked out pretty darn well for many, many years. They've been very successful with this model. But we, as a fan base, and I'm putting me in there, we were expecting something more this time around, weren't we? Especially after a 91 loss season, which is something that they have not seen hardly ever in the history of the team. They hadn't faced adversity. Not this front office. This particular front office has not faced adversity like this. And we thought perhaps that the organization would finally step out of their comfort zone, make that extra effort, basically spend a little more, offer extra years to go get players that would have a good chance at making a major impact on the team this upcoming season and for years to come. And they have not done that. They have not done that. I'm going to put the word yet at the end of that as well, because we don't know what the rest of this offseason is going to look like, but they're probably not going to do that. They underwhelmed us with the Lance Lynn and Kyle Gibson signings right out of the gate. The consensus from fans and experts and from John Mozeliak was that the Cardinals were going to need three starting pitchers for this upcoming season to fill out their rotation, which was absolutely true. He could have said, well, we just need one or two, and then lived with the guys like Zach Thompson and Matthew Liberatore or whoever. But he targeted three, said, I want three. But the fans and the experts and myself believed and still do that the two of the three guys that they needed to go get, two of them had to be top of the rotation guys, basically better pitchers than anybody currently on the roster. So Miles Michaelis have to be better than Miles Michaelis because he's your top returning starter from last year. And then one of them could be the innings eater, the back of the rotation guy, the depth guy. And that's what we expected them to do, right? We thought they were going to get two big dudes and then one other guy, and life would be grand. That's what was on our shopping list as fans and experts. They didn't do that. They did what the Cardinals normally do. They went the cheaper way, the less risky way. They took two back end guys and paid more for one top of the rotation guy in Sonny Gray. And the top of the rotation guy they chose was the cheapest out of all of them that are out there. We still don't know what other people are going to sign for yet, but they're not going to be cheaper than Sonny Gray. And even that deal is not a really risky or expensive deal when you think about it. 3-year, $75 million deal, which could go over $100 million if they do that $30 million club option in 2027, which would be the year Gray also turns 37. So odds are they're probably not going to do that. You go out and you see guys like the Dodgers go spend over $1 billion, and the Cardinals aren't even hitting $100 million. I don't know if the Lennon Gibson signings are going to pan out. I have no idea. I don't know. I hope they do. I hope that we get the Lance Lynn from a couple of years ago, right? 2021, when he was third in the AL Cy Young Award voting, an all-star. He went 11-6, 2.69 ERA, had an ERA plus of 163. But is that realistic? No, that's probably not going to happen. He's gotten older. You saw what happened to him last year. Can he improve on the numbers from last year? Absolutely. I expect him to. I think everybody does. FanGraphs has him projected at 11-10 with a 4.33 ERA, which compared to last year, I don't think anyone's going to hate it, but it would be nice if you had gotten a Lance Lynn and had already gotten someone to pair up with Sonny Gray at the top as well. Kyle Gibson, for his career, an ERA plus of 93, below average. 2021, he was at 117. Last year, back down to 87. He's not a terrible pitcher by any means. But what about him makes you think that he'll be any better next season than he was this past year when he was an ERA plus of 87? Nothing really, right? Serviceable, back of the rotation guy. That's who he is. To his credit, 17 quality starts last season, 5th most in the American League, 6th overall. Love that. Love that. That's a big deal because the Cardinals get quality starts from their starters. When that happens, they win a whole lot more than they lose. I've dropped the stats on you before. Those stats, by the way, I want to throw a shout out Bernie Miklasz. Heard that on one of his shows on KFNS, and I was like, ooh, those are good stats. That's where you got that winning percentage in the 600s when the Cardinals have a starter make a quality start. Really good stuff. FanGraphs projects Kyle Gibson at 11-10 with a 4.31 ERA. Very similar to Lynn, right? Which, again, is great at the back of the rotation. If you've got a guy to go with Sonny Gray at the top, you'd be like, cool. I would love Kyle Gibson as my number 5. But do I need a Lynn and a Gibson in the same rotation along with a Michaelis? That's the issue. So they don't have that. You've got Gray, who has been great. An amazing year last year. Cy Young worthy type of season. FanGraphs has him projected at 12-10 with a 3.83 ERA in 2024. So they're expecting some significant regression from his 2.79 ERA that he had this year. Gray also had 17 quality starts last year. Again, great number, huge. Lance Lynn had 13. Miles Michaelis had 14 for what it's worth. That's good. So if that's the stats that they're looking at, right? Like when the more you look at who they have and what the similarities are, quality starts, innings pitched. That's what they were looking at. They've got 4 guys that fit that bill now. It would be nice to have one more who fits that mold. And of the remaining free agents that would be considered difference makers, there is a guy that seems like a wonderful fit. if the Cardinals are willing to open up the checkbook a little bit. And that guy is Jordan Montgomery. We're going to talk about why he would make the most sense for this team next on Locked On Cardinals. Score early this NFL season with FanDuel, America's number one sportsbook. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 moneyline bet. That's $150 if your team wins. And if you haven't joined FanDuel yet, it's a great time to do it. A lot of great sports going on at the moment. Obviously, baseball is in the offseason, but NFL, NHL, you've got college bowl games, the playoffs coming up for that. NBA is in full swing. The app is very easy to use, wide range of betting options you can choose from. You can go with the spreads, which is a lot of fun in certain situations. Player props is what I'm having a lot of fun with these days. Did you see the guy this weekend who had anytime touchdowns on a whole bunch of dudes? Placed a bet and won monster money on it. I even got it here. Hold on. 14 pick parlay is what it was. He had a mix of running backs and wide receivers. So we had Najee Harris, Gabriel Davis, Jahmyr Gibbs, DK Metcalf, Jerome Ford, Chris Rodriguez Jr. from the Commanders, Jonathan Taylor, Calvin Ridley, James Conner, Raheem Mostert, Javonte Williams, Isaiah Pacheco, DeAndre Swift, and Christian McCaffrey. All of them scored a touchdown, and he had a 14-player parlay bet that all of them would score a TD, and he hit. $5 wager is what he put down. Basically the price of what? A tall energy drink or a big coffee at a Starbucks, and walked away with $489,383.01. $5. Walked away with that. That's nuts, right? But that's how these player prop bets work. And you can mix and create your own bets. You don't have to go 14 large like this person did, but you can mix and match yours and try to find out what works for you. Who do you believe in? Thursday night, going to be your next chance for NFL action. Jets at the Browns, Browns by 7. I've already placed my bet on that one. Hell yeah, I'm taking that one. Flacco Mania, running wild in Cleveland. Flacco revenge game as well. He's facing the Jets, who he was with the previous, 2 or 3 seasons before getting into Cleveland. The game's in Cleveland. Like, what's not to like about that? So I placed my bet. You should too. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon. Kick off the NFL season with FanDuel, the official partner of the NFL. Once again, Locked On has launched the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube. If you haven't seen this yet, Locked On Sports Today is here for you 24/7, and it's covering the top sports stories of the day with the local experts of Locked On, plus our national shows covering every league. So go to Locked On Sports Today on YouTube and subscribe to the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel. And again, thank you for making Locked On Cardinals your first listen every day. Leave your comments below on YouTube, as well as hitting me up on Twitter X. Love hearing from you guys, even if we don't agree on whatever's going on. It's fun to have the discussion. All right, let's just not get personal on there. Everything's gravy. The Cardinals want a guy who eats innings, right? That's what they were looking for this offseason, clearly. They want a guy that does that, offers quality starts. That's the target area. Gray, Michaelis, Gibson, Lynn, all do that. All do that very, very well. Last year, innings pitched in all of Major League Baseball. Michaelis was 4th. Kyle Gibson, 11th. Sonny Gray, 19th, Lynn, 20th. 4 of the top 20 guys. Starts, who was there, answering the bell every 5th day. Miles Michaelis led the league. 35 of them. 35 starts last year. Gibson was 3rd with 33. Gray, 4th with 32. Lynn, also 4th with 32. Quality starts, we talked about. Gibson and Gray, 6th with 17. Michaelis, 14. Lynn, 13. They were looking for a particular style of pitcher. So the one guy out there who seems to make the most sense to me is a guy that the Cardinals already had, and that's Jordan Montgomery. Now, Blake Snell would be fun, right? 2-time Cy Young Award winner, strikes out a ton of guys, kind of got a personality that's, kind of interesting. Walks a ton of guys, too. Don't forget that. But that's not a Cardinal move, all right? That's not what they do. They're not that guy. They're not going to go get the two-time Cy Young Award winner. That's not who they chase. They come down. They try to find a different path to get similar production. So we need to quit thinking that they're going to go after the big fish. It's just not something they are willing to do. We just got to get over it. Like, if you don't like it, you need to go root for another team, I guess, because we're not going to do that. The Cardinals are not that team. Will they be someday? Probably not. At least not under this ownership, right? They've repeatedly shown that that's not what they want to do. That's not how they do business. Now, what they have been willing to do is extend guys they already have on the team. Paul Goldschmidt. The Arenado deal was already in place, but he was coming over with it. They loved him. Fine. The Matt Holliday deal. They extended Pujols at one time. They tried to give him a big contract, and he went to LA instead. He got outbid. But it's another reason that I think Jordan Montgomery just makes a whole lot of sense. You know, if the Cardinals were, for some reason, willing to expand their willingness to sign a starting pitcher to a long-term deal, why wouldn't it be Monty? You've had him. You know him. You know? Like, they're very familiar with who he is on and off the field, what kind of guy he is in the clubhouse. From everything I've read, seemed to enjoy his time as a Cardinal. We know things didn't go well last year for the team as a whole, but he was a part of the magic the year before when he got traded over. You know? And from everything I've read and heard, there's never been any animosity towards the Cardinals. He never closed the door on coming back. So if you were able to sign him, wouldn't it basically feel like an extension for a guy that you had on your roster? I mean, hypothetically, if the Cardinals hadn't sucked butt last year, right? You don't trade Jordan Montgomery. They go to the playoffs. They make a successful run, whether or not it ends in a championship, whatever. This is a dream scenario, so we can say sure. But after the season, would they let Montgomery walk then if they had made the playoffs and they didn't have to trade everybody away? If things hadn't imploded the way they did, would they not be trying to sign Jordan Montgomery to an extension? Would he not still be very, very expensive? I mean, wouldn't they be doing everything within their power to keep this guy on the team? You still would have lost Flaherty, Adam Wainwright. Those guys would still already be gone. One retired. Flaherty was going to be a free agent. You weren't going to re-sign him. So what's the difference? He's not going to be cheap. We know that. But he wasn't going to be cheap anyway. Even he was having a good season with the Cardinals. And again, if they had gone on to the playoffs, whether they got bounced in the first round or went to the series, he would have continued to have had a good season if he had done what he did in Texas with the St. Louis Cardinals instead. So he was still going to be expensive. The Cardinals are just going to eventually have to buck up. It's the way it is. Unless you start developing your own starting pitching in your organization, you have to go out and pay for it. It's just that simple. If none of their own pitching in their organization is ever going to step up and become a difference maker at the major league level, and I'm not talking about a guy like Dakota Hudson, who, fine pitcher, whatever, but a back of the rotation type of guy at best. I'm talking about an impact guy, one or two in your rotation type of dude. If you can't develop them, you have to go buy them or else you will not win. That's just the way it is. And you got to buy them at premium prices because everybody else is competing for it. Just like in the NFL, if you can't draft and groom a quarterback, like if you continue to fail in grooming your own guy to run things, you have to go out and spend money on it, and it costs you crazy money. Like Kirk Cousins type of money, you know, with the Vikings. You just have to. It's just something you have to do. You have to go get good starting pitching. There's no other way around it. You will not win if you don't have it. So instead of trying to milk guys for the last ounce of baseball they got in them and praying that they turn back the clock a couple of years and become something they once were, you need to go get guys who have 3 or 4 solid years ahead of them still if your goal is to win championships. Plain and simple. If your goal isn't to win championships, then you can go grab all the reclamation projects you want, pressure luck. Good luck selling that to the fan base. But if you want to win now, you got to pay. The real issue is, do you have the courage to step up and swim with the big boys, to land Jordan Montgomery? Because now that Yamamoto and Ohtani are in Los Angeles, teams like the Mets, the Yankees, the Giants, the Phillies, the Angels, perhaps even the Cubs, they're all going to slide down to the next tier of guys. And the next guys on their list are probably going to start with Blake Snell, and then there's going to be Jordan Montgomery. Because Jordan Montgomery is not a sexy pitcher. He doesn't have the strikeout numbers. He doesn't have the Cy Young awards. But damn, is he good. Do I expect this to happen? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. But it's what makes the most sense for this franchise right now. It really does. And if you have to sign Montgomery to a 7-year deal and then in 5 years he's not as good as he once was, so what? That's just the price of doing business because you haven't developed your own talent in your own system. But imagine a rotation. If I sold it to you right now and you were like, Jordan Montgomery signs, you would have Gray, Monty, Michaelis, Gibson, and Lynn with Matz, Liberatore, and Thompson on standby as the guys filling in, swing guys, injuries, when they eventually happen to a couple of them, because it normally does. Okay, all 4 of those guys, or all 5 of those guys, if you're counting Monty, got into the 30s and games started last year. That's not totally normal, but that's the idea of why you're signing them in the first place, is because you trust them to be there every 5th day. I think fans would love that. I think they would. And it wouldn't cost you any prospects or everyday players like it would if you had to try and make a trade for Dylan Cease or Shane Bieber. You get to keep all of them and get a guy who was good enough to lead the Rangers to a World Series championship. But it's the Cardinals. So instead of this move, it'll likely be, we're going to stick with what we got, focus on the bullpen, which still needs to be addressed, obviously, with, in my opinion, at least one more trustworthy impact veteran arm. But that's probably what they're going to do. I just wish they could be a little bit more aggressive, a little bit more. And it's Jordan Montgomery. It's a guy you know. It's a guy you trust already. It's not somebody that you're like, I wonder if he's going to be okay in our clubhouse. Oh, is he going to clash with people? Is he going to be an issue? No, you've already had him. And things seem to be fine. You made a mistake by not giving him an extension in the offseason. You gave it to Michaelis instead. We don't know if Monty was going to actually, he was willing to listen. We knew that, but we don't know if he was actually going to sign anything. But still, this is not a super risky move by any means. This is about as safe as it gets for the St. Louis Cardinals. But they got to spend. They got to spend if they want to get him. I want to get into some news and notes from around the league because there are other things going on right now because the Cardinals kind of waiting on the bullpen situation. We just had the holidays, so everything is kind of at a standstill at the moment. But there are some rumors and stuff swirling about the Chicago Cubs that we need to talk about. The latest on outfielders like Cody Bellinger and Teoscar Hernandez. We'll get into that next on Locked On Cardinals. Once again, Locked On has launched the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube. Locked On Sports Today is here for you 24/7, covering the top sports stories of the day with the local experts of Locked On, plus our national shows covering every league. Go to Locked On Sports Today on YouTube and subscribe to the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel. For a brief moment in time, the world thought Shohei Ohtani was going to be a Toronto Blue Jay. Do you remember that? Everybody went crazy online. I had friends blowing me up. He's going to Toronto. Unbelievable. I didn't believe it at all either. I was like, what? He is? Are you serious? Are you sure? And it ended up being false. He did not go to Toronto. In fact, he stays in LA, signs with the Dodgers, which is exactly what I thought he would do. But the Blue Jays haven't, just because that happened, folded up their team and gone home, after that disappointment. And instead, they are considered a favorite to sign what many consider to be the best offensive player on the market, and that's Cody Bellinger. Now, there has been a development with the Blue Jays, reportedly coming to an agreement on a 1-year deal with center fielder Kevin Kiermaier, who was with them last year. So does that mean that Toronto has moved on from trying to sign Cody Bellinger. Personally, I would love to not see him in Chicago anymore because he's good. He was very good last year against the Cardinals. 333, 2 home runs, 9 RBIs in 13 games. 13 games. So he was a pain in the butt. He's kind of got that Chicago Cub vibe and attitude where he's kind of the bad guy. And if he's on your team, you root for him. If he's not on your team, you hate him. He's kind of got that vibe. He had it when he was with the Dodgers, when he was at the top of his powers, when he was getting the MVP. But isn't it weird that the Cubs haven't really done anything? Like anything. With the roster, at least. Yeah, they went out, they got Craig Counsell, poached him from the Brewers. He'll be their manager, but they haven't really done anything else yet. So it kind of worries me that because they haven't done anything, and they might have been on the Yamamoto stuff, whatever, but despite the contract demands that Cody Bellinger is reportedly asking for, apparently he's seeking over $200 million on whatever deal he signs. Doesn't it seem like the Cubs have to get him? Like they got to pay that now, right? You can't lose him to somebody else. Who are you replacing him with if you're the Cubs? There's also reports the Cubs could be interested in Matt Chapman at third base. Very good defensive third baseman. Offensively, he was really good at the beginning of last year, and then he just died for the Blue Jays. So, two big names though. But as far as the Cubs go, I just cannot fathom how the reaction would be from their fan base if Belly walks when you're the Cubs and you haven't done anything yet. So interesting there. The other outfield name that is picking up some steam right now, Teoscar Hernandez, hit 258 with 26 home runs, 93 RBIs with the Mariners last season. Guess who? Reportedly interested in him? The Dodgers. That's right. A story at MLB.com said with Mookie Betts expected to play second base more often in 2024, the team's current outfield options are Manuel Margot, who they got from the Rays in that Glasnow deal. Former Cardinal legend Jason Hayward re-signed with the Dodgers. They got James Outman, who was a rookie last year, and also Chris Taylor, who we don't like him either because he hit the game-winning home run off of us in the playoffs. The team also, in this report, said they could use another right-handed power bat after replacing JD Martinez with Ohtani at the DH spot. Ohtani, Freeman, Muncy, Outman, Hayward, all bats from the left-hand side, so they could use another right-handed bat. If the Dodgers want him, I'm sure they can have him. I mean, they're not going to get outbid by anybody, clearly. The other teams reportedly interested in Hernandez are the Red Sox and Angels. They also have money to spend. I've also read that the Red Sox are no longer in on Jordan Montgomery. I saw that, where I know they need pitching, but I guess they're not willing to pay whatever it is Jordan Montgomery is asking. I don't know what he's asking for, but if Boston is bowed out already, it must be up there. But the rumor mill was saying that they're still in on Lucas Giolito and James Paxton. They're going to bring him back. Okay. Now, okay, you hear those names, Giolito and James Paxton. Now, I'm not in love with everything the Cardinals have done so far this offseason with the rotation. There are other guys I wish they would have had. I wish they could get Montgomery back, but aren't you glad that they are not scrambling like some of these other teams are right now? That's why in the last episode, I was like, weren't the Cardinals smart to get their stuff out of the way, to do their shopping early? I wasn't stating that. I was like, dude, they picked the perfect guys, and this is who they should have gotten. That's not what I was saying. Aren't you glad they're not scrambling right now? We don't know how to fill 3 holes. We're in trouble. They don't have to do that now. Some follow-up on the Yamamoto stuff after the Dodgers inked him to that 12-year, $325 million deal. The offers that other teams made are starting to surface. Ken Rosenthal, The Athletic, says the Yankees offered 10 years, $300 million, which would have resulted in a higher annual average value than Yamamoto agreed to with the Dodgers. And unlike the Dodgers deal, the Yankees offer did not backload any money, just a straight $30 million per year. There was also an opt-out after year 5. The Mets, meanwhile, matched the Dodgers offer of $12 and $325, according to Rosenthal. According to John Denton, who covers the Cardinals for MLB.com, the Cardinals never seriously entered the chase for Yamamoto and missed out on a trade for Tyler Glasnow, per Glasnow, on the Foul Territory podcast. The nugget there was good to hear, because even though they didn't get Glasnow, at least it gives you the impression that the Cardinals are still kind of seemingly slithering around, checking in on things a little bit too. They give off the impression that they're okay with what they got, and they are, I think. But it doesn't mean that they aren't still lurking, kind of seeing what else is going on out there. Like I said before, signing Montgomery makes so much sense. If Monty wants to return, who knows if he does. Perhaps there will be some other deals out there that make sense for the Cardinals. The rumors of the White Sox asking for the moon from the Reds for Dylan Cease doesn't bode well for a deal to bring him into St. Louis at all. But remember, the A's also reportedly asked for a ton in return from the Cardinals for Sean Murphy and then got involved in a three-way deal with the Braves and Brewers and netted substantially less than what they were asking for from the Cardinals. So things shift, things change. So again, I'm not going to close the book on any deals for a starting pitcher, but I'm still of belief that the next move is going to be bullpen related. That's what I think. I think the market is waiting on Josh Hader. Whenever a deal for him comes through, things will start to get figured out. People will start to jockey for position with other teams. Losing Matsui to San Diego was a bummer, but not the end of the world stuff. Still a lot of good arms available, including Jordan Hicks, who would, like Montgomery, make a lot of sense for the Cardinals. It'd be another situation where it's almost like extending him. You were trying to extend him before you traded him anyway. Go get him. Bring him back. Go get Monty. Go get Hicks. Let's get back to work. Thanks for making Locked On Cardinals your first listen every day. If you haven't already, please give us a follow on Twitter at @LO_Cardinals and at JD Sports Radio. Like and subscribe on YouTube. Be sure to help our channel and love for the Cardinals grow. You guys are the best fans of baseball for a reason. I will see you next time on Locked On Cardinals. Happy holidays.